Welcome to Beneath the Surface, the dark side of crime. In a world that often seems filled with chaos, we often seek out places that promise peace and security, a refuge from the dangers that can lurk in every corner of life. Some places, like Iceland, are renowned for their beauty and tranquility. Known for its stunning natural landscapes, from erupting volcanoes to cascading waterfalls, Iceland is often seen as a utopia, a place where nature and humanity coexist in harmony. Iceland is also known for its small, close-knit community. With a population of just over 340,000, the people here are like family. They look out for each other, trust one another, and maintain a strong sense of safety. In fact, Iceland is so safe that the country doesn't even have a standing army, and its police officers are not armed. Here, the streets are quiet, the people are warm, and crime is something almost unheard of. But even in the most peaceful places, the darkness of human nature can sometimes break through, shattering the illusion of safety. This is the tragic reality we explore today as we delve into the case of Berna Branstadtir, a young woman whose life was violently cut short in a country that prides itself on being free from crime. Berna's story would not only rock Iceland to its core, but it would leave the entire nation questioning their sense of security. On January 14, 2017, Berna, a vibrant, intelligent, and beloved young woman, vanished without a trace after a night out in Reykjavik, Iceland's capital. Her disappearance would soon reveal a series of chilling truths, unraveling a mystery so dark and unexpected that it would change the country forever. What began as a typical night out would evolve into an investigation that would capture the nation's attention, exposing a shocking crime that no one saw coming. In this video, we will uncover the story behind Berna Branstadtir's tragic end. We will walk you through the events that led to her disappearance, the frantic search that ensued, and the investigation that ultimately uncovered the shocking truth. Along the way, we'll examine the powerful ripple effects her death had on Iceland, a country that thought itself immune to the tragedies that haunt the rest of the world. This is a case that forced Iceland to confront the darkness hiding beneath its surface. It's a story of heartbreak, betrayal, and the haunting question of how even the safest places can be touched by violence. So, sit back and join us as we go beneath the surface to uncover the chilling details behind the murder of Berna Branstadtir, one of the darkest and most heart-wrenching chapters in Iceland's history. Chapter 1. The vibrant life of Berna Branstadtir before the tragic events of January 14, 2017. Berna Branstadtir was living what appeared to be a normal and carefree life in Reykjavik, Iceland's capital. She was known for her fiery personality, infectious humor, and her striking red hair. As the only child of her divorced parents, Berna had always been the center of their world. Her parents may not have been together, but they remained close for her sake, and they raised her with love, guidance, and a shared commitment to her happiness. Berna's life was characterized by a love of adventure. She was spontaneous, charismatic, and someone who always kept her friends on their toes. Her sharp wit and quick humor made her incredibly popular, and she had an easy way of connecting with anyone she met. Whether she was out with friends or working in her job at a busy department store in the heart of Reykjavik, Berna exuded confidence and joy. Her love for music played a central role in her life. She wasn't confined to just one genre. She embraced everything from rap to pop to folk and rock. Music, in many ways, was the soundtrack of her life. It was her escape, her joy, and her way of expressing herself. It was not unusual for Berna to be the life of the party, sharing songs, dances, and stories with her close-knit group of friends. Even though she was outgoing and fun-loving, Berna possessed a sense of responsibility that made her stand out. She worked hard at her job in the fashion section of the department store and was known for being punctual and reliable. She was not just a carefree spirit. She balanced her work life with an unwavering dedication to her loved ones. Berna was the kind of person who always made time for those who needed her, and she often found herself organizing spontaneous get-togethers and adventures. Chapter 2. A Night Out in Reykjavik. On the night of January 13, 2017, Berna was looking forward to unwinding after a long work week. She closed the department store at 7 p.m. and quickly made plans to meet her friends for drinks. The group gathered at a local bar where they laughed, played cards, and enjoyed a few rounds of drinks. As the night wore on, the energy shifted from relaxed fun to full-on excitement. The group decided to head to a popular club known for its live performances. It was here, amidst the buzz of music and lively crowds, that Berna's infectious spirit truly came to life. By 2 a.m., her friends were ready to call it a night, but Berna wasn't. She had an energy about her that made her want to dance the night away. She stayed behind, not yet ready to leave the excitement of the club. The rhythm of the music, the camaraderie of the crowd, it was all too much for Berna to resist. As the night crept toward 5 a.m., Berna left the club, stepping out into the cold, dark streets of Reykjavik. Despite the freezing temperatures, Berna seemed undeterred. Her spirit was high and her thoughts were likely still on the fun she had shared with her friends earlier in the night. She stopped for a late-night snack at a falafel stand and began her walk home. Chapter 3. The Disappearance. Even at that hour, Reykjavik's streets were far from empty. While Berna's walk home wasn't unusual for the city's night owls, this particular walk would be her last. She stumbled, dropping her coins and briefly colliding with a stranger. She continued walking, slightly off balance but not deterred, making her way down a narrow alley toward the sea. The wind howled, but Berna, perhaps in a haze from the night's drinking, didn't seem to mind, and then, just like that, she vanished. When Berna failed to show up for work the next morning, her absence sent a ripple through her tight-knit circle of friends and family. Maria, her colleague and close friend, was the first to realize something was wrong. She tried calling Berna repeatedly, but the calls went straight to voicemail, something that Berna had never done before. Her mother, Zilla, was called, and sensing something was terribly wrong, she rushed to the police. Berna would never have disappeared without telling anyone where she was going. It was out of character for her to not check in, and so Zilla, frantic and fearful, reported her daughter as missing. Chapter 4. The search for Berna Iceland, with its small population and tightly knit communities, was in shock. The disappearance of one of their own, their beloved Berna, was a story that spread quickly, not just among friends and family but across the entire nation. Iceland was not accustomed to stories like this. Missing persons were rare, and a violent crime was practically unheard of. The country was paralyzed with concern, and the search for Berna intensified. Silla wasted no time driving to Hafnarfjordur, the small port town where Berna's phone last pinged. She searched the streets, calling out for her daughter. She wasn't alone. Friends and family rallied together, determined to find any sign of Berna. But despite their best efforts, there was no sign of her. The cold, empty streets offered no answers. Days passed, and still there was no trace of Berna. The police had nothing but a few CCTV images and a dead phone signal to work with. The public's desperation grew, and the media began to cover the story with increasing intensity. Berna's face was everywhere, on news reports, social media, and newspapers. Chapter 5. The Red Kia and Surveillance. As the investigation began to gain traction, the breakthrough came in the form of the CCTV footage. A grainy image of a red Kia Rio was spotted near the nightclub where Berna had been last seen. The car, driving down the street moments after Berna had exited the club, was the first solid lead the police had. It wasn't much, just a brief glimpse of the car, but it was enough to set the wheels of the investigation in motion. The red Kia had been rented under the name of a 25-year-old fisherman from Greenland, Thomas Muller Olsen. The police quickly traced the car to him and began their inquiries. At first, Thomas was cooperative, claiming that he had rented the car for personal use. However, as the evidence began, To pile up, his story started to unravel. The police discovered that Thomas had been in Reykjavik on the night Berna disappeared. But what was even more damning were the traces of blood found in the back seat of the rented car. Forensics confirmed that the blood belonged to Berna. With this discovery, the investigation had a clear direction. The police were now certain that Thomas was connected to Berna's disappearance in some way. In addition to the blood in the car, the police uncovered an even more troubling lead. Berna's personal belongings, her wallet, keys, and phone, had all been found discarded in the car. It seemed that someone had tried to clean up the scene, but the evidence was undeniable. DNA samples were taken from the bloodstains, and forensic experts worked tirelessly to confirm the match to Berna. But the police needed more. They needed to confirm Thomas's involvement in the crime. A search of his residence yielded nothing of immediate importance, but when the authorities reviewed the footage from nearby CCTV cameras, a clearer picture began to emerge. The red Kia had been seen near Hafnarfjordur, a small port town, shortly after Berna had disappeared from the nightclub. It wasn't enough to make an arrest just yet, but it was a critical step in unraveling the mystery. Chapter 6. The Arrest and Investigation. As the evidence continued to mount, the police moved forward with their arrest. Thomas Muller Olsen was taken into custody under suspicion of involvement in Berna's disappearance and possible murder. The police were determined to get answers, but Thomas continued to deny any wrongdoing. During the initial interrogation, Thomas's story was full of inconsistencies. He claimed that he had merely given Berna and her friend, Nicholas Olsen, a ride home from the club. He said that after dropping them off, he went about his evening, unaware of anything out of the ordinary. But the evidence didn't add up. The forensic analysis of the car, the DNA samples, and the bloody traces pointed to something much darker than a simple ride home. Despite his cooperation, the police could not shake their suspicions. They continued to question him, and with every round of interviews, his demeanor began to crack. In one interview, he even broke down, admitting that he had been present when Berna was attacked but continued to deny that he had played a role in her death. The investigators were growing frustrated. They had pieces of the puzzle, but the full picture remained elusive. There were still many unanswered questions. Why had Thomas lied about his whereabouts? Why had he tried to hide the evidence? Was he covering for someone else? And, most importantly, why had Berna been targeted in the first place? Chapter 7. The Trial and Conviction. By the time the trial began in August 2017, the case had already captured the attention of the nation. Iceland, a country known for its low crime rate, was in shock. The brutal murder of a young woman, someone the community had known and loved, had shaken Iceland to its core. The trial was broadcast across the country, and it became the topic of conversation in every household, bar, and workplace. Thomas Muller Olsen continued to maintain his innocence, but the prosecution's case was strong. The forensic evidence, the blood in the car, the DNA samples found on Berna's boots, and the disturbing details of Thomas's behavior painted a damning picture. It was clear to the public that Thomas had been involved in Berna's death, but the motives behind the crime remained unclear. Throughout the trial, Thomas's defense tried to cast doubt on the prosecution's case. They argued that the evidence was circumstantial and that there were many unanswered questions. But with each new piece of evidence, it became increasingly difficult for Thomas's defense to maintain any credibility. The police had reconstructed the timeline, and it was impossible to deny that Thomas had been at the center of it all. In the end, the jury found Thomas Muller Olsen guilty of the murder of Berna Branstadtir. He was sentenced to 19 years in prison. The verdict was met with a mix of relief and sorrow. While justice had been served, it did little to bring back Berna, or undo the pain her family had suffered. The people of Iceland had lost one of their own, and the sting of that loss would never truly go away. The trial also revealed some uncomfortable truths about Thomas. He had tried to manipulate his way through the investigation, attempting to place the blame on others. But in the end, his actions, along with the overwhelming evidence, sealed his fate. The murder of Berna Branstadtir left an indelible mark on Iceland, a country that had long prided itself on its low crime rate and close-knit community had been shaken to its core. Icelanders had always felt safe, believing that their small, peaceful nation was insulated from the horrors of the outside world. But Berna's death proved that no place is truly free from the darkness that can emerge in even the most unexpected of circumstances. Her funeral, attended by over 2,000 people, was a national moment of mourning. Iceland's leaders, including the president and prime minister, stood alongside her family to honor her life and offer their condolences. The high street in Reykjavik, where Berna had disappeared, became a shrine to her memory, with candles and flowers left by grieving citizens. The outpouring of love and support was overwhelming, and it was clear that Berna had left an unforgettable mark on the people of Iceland. In the wake of her death, Icelandic society changed. The country, which had once been free of surveillance and armed law enforcement, now increased its use of CCTV and invested in new security measures. Women, especially, became more cautious when walking alone at night, and the sense of community that had once defined the country began to shift. Iceland was no longer the safe haven it had once seemed to be. For Berna's family, the pain of losing their beloved daughter was impossible to fully overcome. Though they had seen justice served with Thomas's conviction, the emotional scars would remain forever. Berna's mother, Scylla, often spoke publicly about the lasting impact of her daughter's death. "She was our joy, our light," she said in an interview shortly after the trial. "The world is darker without her." Yet, despite the tragedy, Berna's legacy endured. She became a symbol of resilience for the people of Iceland. Her story was a reminder that even in a country that seemed immune to violence, the unthinkable could still happen. But it was also a story of justice, of a nation coming together to seek the truth, and of a community finding strength in the face of unimaginable loss. In the years that followed, Berna's name continued to be remembered. The case sparked discussions about safety, trust, and the balance between freedom and security in a modern society. It was a story that no one would ever forget, a story that, in the end, forced Iceland to confront its own vulnerabilities. Thank you for joining us on this heartbreaking journey into the life and death of Berna Branstadtir. This case serves as a powerful reminder that no place, no matter how peaceful or serene, is immune to the dark side of crime. If you found this story thought-provoking, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to Beneath the Surface, The Dark Side of Crime. Share this video with your friends and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned for more gripping true crime stories as we continue to explore the darker sides of our world. Remember, stay safe, stay vigilant, and, as always, look beneath the surface.